there was a study done by Meta, Model Evaluation and Threat Research. They're like a small independent AI group that does sort of research, like really focused research. And one of the things they looked at was they basically took a group of open source developers. And what was interesting was they found, I mean, this is obviously an overly accurate number, but they were 19% slower using the AI assistants. And what the sort of the theory of the research that comes out of it is that their brain is so well attuned to their normal ways of working, having been doing it for 15 years or 20 years, that actually they're context switching to use the AI tools now. And it's actually killing their workflow. They'll never have used an environment where AI wasn't there. And that's actually the way their brain will work, will be to automatically use the AI tools quite naturally. And in that, it's just an interesting one.
So, hey everybody, welcome back to the Travel Tech Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined again by Adrian McKenzie, Ollie Deakin, and Ian Painter to discuss our topic of the week, which is how will teams and the humans in those teams be impacted by AI and its rollout across not just our industry in travel technology, but perhaps further afield as well. And so just before we get into the discussion, I've got a few stats to share to sort of help kick us off. So Anthropic have done some really interesting research in their future of work survey. And this was just one of the first things I wanted to sort of show to help get the discussion going, really. And it's the theoretical capability and observed usage by occupational categories. So what they've done here is what Anthropic have done. They've taken the data that they see through the use of Claude and the Anthropic APIs. They look at the use cases that are being followed. What are people doing? What are they actually doing using those APIs? And then they've also modeled those roles and looked at the difference between what AI could achieve, what it can do in theory across a range of jobs, and then compared that with actually what are they observing? What are they seeing people using Claude, using agents in reality? Obviously, a big theoretical usage across management, business and finance, computer, math, architecture, engineering. And you can see some of the observed coverage also sort of doing really well there. And the second one, just before I sort of put the question to the group, I'm going to share the next one as well. This one is focused a bit more on agents. It's from Anthropic, but I think it would be helpful when we talk about teams and the impact on people in the professional world. Which domains are we seeing agents deployed as well? And so software engineering is obviously absolutely sort of dominated up here at the top. And then it goes all the way down: sales, finance and accounting, cybersecurity, and then right at the very bottom, travel and logistics. And so we're obviously on the Travel Tech Podcast, so I think it's quite interesting to look at that difference. So if I put the question then to the group, if one of you'd like to kick us off, the impact of AI on teams, given that sort of perhaps theoretical, where people think it could be used, and then actually what we're really seeing.
I guess when there's if you think about when there's lives on the line, if you maybe think about one analogy I was thinking about was this evolution from manually flying a plane to fly by wire to glass cockpits, and where between the pilot and the machine there's been more and more automation added in between, and that's taken a long time, 30-40 years of trust being built up. So that's a very trust based scenario, probably the most critical scenario. Now, how fast AI will get traction in that high trust environment is definitely not on the timeframes that Anthropic is talking about in that paper. And I think that same, although interestingly, if you think about it, there are more lives to risk on the roads in theory. But we seem to have sort of almost drifted into that trust, and there's not that much regulation behind it. And, there's an interesting thing. So I think it's that side of it. I think it's like looking at teams where somebody has to sign on the line. So I mean, in some scenarios, some people have personal liability as well. Personal liability. If you're installing avionics in an airplane, there's corporate liability and there's personal liability. That you're getting this right and you're putting the right stuff in. And even from a software perspective, when you're getting into the DAO and the swell, there's like personal liabilities of stuff in terms of the software you're deploying. Yeah. So I don't know where that is on the time frame, but maybe we're just so used to being in quite a niche industry that, does that really matter in terms of like when you look at the broader AI traction, does that really matter? I'm not sure. But I think that's an interesting side of a team dynamic where you have to have accountability. But then maybe, if people are spending, millions of pounds on software development, there's accountability there as well, like accountability in terms of you make the wrong decisions, you lose your job. So, I think that's an interesting angle of AI in teams because, like, obviously the AI isn't accountable. So somebody at somewhere is going to be accountable. So it's an interesting one.
So that's maybe we should explain for the viewers. So in regulated industries like aviation, you have this role as a system design authority who they actually sign off the design of the system. This software is going to do what we said it was going to do against the requirement spec. And then there's a whole load of testing, validation, verification stuff. But it's a really interesting aspect to it, because that person, they've got to, and it's still this way, isn't it? Wet signature those test records or those design documents, and take responsibility.
And that's where I think we're moving to, right? Like, I think that's the future, even for, say, enterprise software where I am at the moment, more than the, this assured assured sort of level, is that you still need to have that confidence. And so at the moment, I think from a team perspective, what I'm expecting of the people that I work with and our business is expecting is that within the team, people are comprehending all of the software still. So any lines of code need to be comprehended by the team, probably at least two people in the team for any change. The person that's making it with the agents and the person that's checking it with the agents. But there's still that comprehension. I do think in the future, from a team perspective, we won't be required to comprehend the code in the future, but we will be required to comprehend how we assure the behavior of the systems. So it's a shift in comprehension in the future, but we're not there now. But in the future, I think that's how I think that, say, from an engineering technology perspective, the change in what we expect of the people in the teams will move towards is what Ollie's saying. And it won't just be in these high assurance domains like cockpit software. It'll be in normal enterprise software as well.
Yeah. But Adrian, I think you make an interesting point in terms of like one of the things where it's more about that. If we just forget the niche of aviation and again, we're focused a little bit on software. I'm quite keen to take it like a little bit completely out of software as well. Sure. But like, it's interesting what you say in terms of like that idea of like comprehension, because you're starting to see more and more, I think, that there's going to be more reliance on more senior people who have got the experience. So as soon as you start going into like, you need to comprehend the whole system, you need to comprehend of what it's doing, you've got this bias that's sort of pulling you, I think, towards more senior people who can look at a whole system and understand an architecture and do that. And I wonder sort of what the role is for like, junior devs who spend like 2-3 years, like, fix this little bit of code, fix this little bug. And you can see that just completely just going away. But then you sort of think like the way I see it is like, well, what's that going to mean? Because then you're not going to grow any senior people and you've got this scenario. And I think that's where you're going to start to see the first, I think, change in IT dynamics of teams. Like the idea of bringing a junior person on when an agent can just do all that stuff for you.
Mm.
It's going to be hard for somebody to sort of say, go fix this small bug. Your first week, like we used to always do, get people in straight away. Right, go onto the production code, go fix this small bug, and you would give them like a small bug. Now, that's just going to all get done in the background. And if the job is more about comprehending things at a high level and architecture and assuring that something is fit to the architecture, what does that mean for junior people and that side of it? I don't know.
And was that was in the Anthropic report, wasn't it? That was the bit they were seeing now is that the graduates are.
Yeah, there's like a 14% decline on the graduate stuff. So
I just think we need to reimagine what that career path is for those people. Like, it's a different learning journey.
Yeah,
but it's still a learning journey. And assuming there's humans at all in teams, what I've observed is that a lot of engineers like to coach more junior people. Like it's not, they actually find it rewarding. So I just think they need to find it rewarding, but express it rather than through code. It's through other things.
Yeah.
So I still think there's that craft person.
So, and I agree. I mean, I think you both make good points now. I think what I suspect is actually that the next generations will be much better at driving the AI tools to get good answers out. Yeah. It's interesting. So I actually did a bit of homework before this one for a change. I used Claude, but
incredible.
There was a study done by Meta, model evaluation and threat research. They're like a small independent AI group that does sort of research, like really focused research into AI related issues. And one of the things they looked at was they basically took a group of open source developers and at different levels and gave them the task of basically using the tools that were provided, and then also had a baseline of kind of the speed that they normally work at. And what was interesting was they found that the senior developers were about, I mean, this is obviously an overly accurate number, but they were 19% slower using the AI assistants. And what the sort of the theory of the research that comes out of it is that their brain is so well attuned to their normal ways of working, having been doing it for 15 years or 20 years, that actually they're context switching to use the AI tools now, and it's actually killing their workflow. Whereas what's interesting is I wonder whether the new grads or the new up and coming software engineers, if you want to call them that, are actually will be starting with that workflow. They'll never have used an environment where AI wasn't there. And that's actually the way their brain will work, will be to automatically use the AI tools quite naturally.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting one.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, when I remember reading that study, for me, doing sort of coding, building stuff myself, there was a real shift in November when the tools got a lot better. There's a big step change. And then the same happened in December, where literally day and night improvement, where the models could understand the much deeper level, the code repository, like get the understanding across a whole repo, and solve bugs that were impossible 2 weeks before. And that's happened twice, November and December. So I don't know. It's hard, isn't it, with some of these studies, when even if they're a few months old, it might have shifted things. I did have another stat to share with everyone, and this is just at the end of the discussion on perhaps on software stuff. But somebody's looked into like the global GitHub commits from Claude Code over time. And it's actually reached 4%, which might not sound like a lot, but 4% of global GitHub commits is actually quite a large number. And this is forecast to get up to 20% by the end of the year.
No human in the loop for those commits. Is that what it implies?
Could be. using Claude Code in its agent mode, where it's actually made a change and actually pushed the commit
and
automatically.
How confident are we that we should trust
author the code?
Yeah, that we should trust that.
I guess it might be pushing it for a review, though. Yeah, it's you don't know.
I assume if it's committed.
Yeah, it could be. So commits aren't. I mean, it could be going into a branch and then have a pull request. Have a get being reviewed by a different AI before it's merged in.
That was the interesting thing. The other thing in this meta study was they said that the average pull request size was 150%, and then but also with a 9 or 10% higher bug rate in the code. So it's interesting.
Okay,
much bigger,
interesting,
much more verbose code. And then as a result, as you probably expect, if you're writing 150% as much code, you're going to get more bugs.
I mean, I think that's what we're seeing from engineering. We're still back on engineering, and we've drifted away.
Unavoidable.
The whole premise of agile engineering is to have continuous integration, continuous delivery, and that was about making as smaller commits as possible and doing it frequently in order to get feedback. Whereas with this, you can make much larger commits because you can generate the code much bigger. It's a different way of thinking about it, but then the cognitive load on the person to comprehend bigger changes is much harder as well. And I don't know. I did listen to a podcast this week on HBR IdeaCast. It was called, what was it called? The Hidden Causes of AI Work Slop. The Hidden Causes of AI.
I like work slop.
It was really interesting. One of the concepts was what you were talking about before, Ollie, a little bit. They called it a J curve, which is you have to go slower before you go faster. So it was kind of those people that have engineered before, when they're transitioning, they're going to be slower. But when they get it, they will be faster. And that's partly maybe in the enterprise expecting productivity gains too soon.
Yeah.
And creating space for the learning journey to go on to actually work out how to do this properly.
Okay, shall we tack back to the impact of AI on the humans and teams then? Maybe Ian, you were keen to take us sort of away from perhaps engineering. Were you thinking of more knowledge work areas?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking like the one thing that's really interesting is again, you look at the Anthropic stuff, and what surprised me was there was quite a big spike on the sales side. But then I still think that if you look at sales teams or marketing teams, you still can't remove that element of human trust and in the buying process. I think that side of it, I can't see how that can ever go. I mean, we talked in one of our previous podcasts about AI actually being the buyer and the seller and infinitely trying things out, but I still can't see that as a future. I think when you actually are at that last bit, I still think we're going to sell in a face-to-face scenario. And I think sales teams from a point of view of sales automation and Salesforce and lead gen and all that sort of stuff, that's obviously going to be heavily automated and pretty much taken away. And I think salespeople will love that. The last, all the experience we had in sales, getting salespeople to update Salesforce was the last thing that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
I think, that side of it is going to be fully automated and probably already is now. I haven't seen Salesforce for a long time. But I think the pitching and the building of relationships, I just can't see that going away. Whether you're selling software or whether you're selling, kitchens or, it's still going to be there, I think. I can't see that changing. Because it's a very personal relationship, that's that very old saying, you buy from people, and I can't see that changing really. And I think the same, you look at again, you look at the Anthropic stuff at the bottom end of it, construction and stuff like that. I mean, I guess it's not AI is going to take that. I guess it's robots at some point, but that's probably a different podcast. But there's definitely a scenario where AI is, it's again, I don't know if it was in the Anthropic stuff, but it was like I read another article about saying that for the first time, this is an industrial change that's affecting knowledge workers. Like previously, all our automations have affected, manual or commoditized, blue collar, white collar. That scenario have affected more manual work, whether that's robotics or all the different machinery that we've bought to make production more, faster. Now it's the opposite. It's affecting educated knowledge workers. So it's like the first time that we've got like a generational change that's going to impact a completely different type of the workforce. And it's obviously opposite. Manual labor and manual workforce are going to be hardly touched by this. And then the opposite is going to flip the other way. So anybody with a college degree and stuff like that, it's going to be more impacted.
Imagine it the other way around. So what I'm thinking about is having seen some, bits and pieces. I can't remember which company. It might have been Google in Google Meet that allow you to just send an AI avatar that sort of has a bit of your persona and has the conversations for you and captures the notes of the meeting and then comes out of the meeting. And I'm just wondering how it would feel as a supplier if you turned up to a meeting and your potential customer had sent just an avatar to have a conversation with you, and how that would feel. Because interesting, because that's like the flip side. We're talking about the supplier and building those trust relationships, but actually it could happen the other way. Big company, just procurement, whatever. We're sending an AI. It'll have a chat with their salesperson, and we'll get back the report afterwards. And we'll do that to 20 different suppliers, get the information, and just make a decision based on what it tells us.
I reckon next time we should, as a management team, how would our jobs have been different?
Yeah,
with AI.
Yeah, actually running a business, that would be an interesting one to go through. Like thinking of us as a management team that would run a company, how would we have used it? I haven't even wrapped my head around that.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, on that note, thanks very much, guys. Thank you, Adrian McKenzie, Ian Painter, Ollie Deakin. I'm Alex Brooker. This is Travel Tech Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.